event. I'd love to go see a band there. I bet a rock show there would be awesome, which would be kind of weird, rock show in an old church, but you never know.
Well, there's a church downtown Birmingham. I've always said that would make the most badass club ever.
Yeah.
The one right across from Marty's.
Oh
That
yeah,
big,
yeah,
huge one. I've
yeah,
always
yeah.
said that would be the ultimate club. But
But what about you, man? I heard you were into some shenanigans this weekend.
yeah, so yesterday, I knew this was coming up for a few weeks, and I was pretty fired up about it. So last night they had the Bigfoot and Paranormal Convention right outside town.
Now, Bigfoot, and so you had a multitude. It was more than one genre, so to speak.
We had a whole mishmash of things going on, and I'll get into it. So, in fairness, it was an 8-hour event, and in my mind, I was like, holy Christ, how can you talk about this stuff for 8 hours,
Mm-hmm.
So they had it at this castle, and I'll have to look it up. I can't remember the name of it right offhand, but there's a castle outside of town.
Mm-hmm. They do a lot of events.
Yeah, it's not a true medieval castle. The guy built
Are you
himself a
serious?
castle.
There's
Yeah.
no castle. There's no true man.
No, yeah. So, but it is cool. I thought it was going to be corny, but it is badass when you go there and you check it out.
Well,
It's
I will
cool.
say this, and I thought about this when you said something. There is a castle in Fort Payne, and Jeff Cook from the Alabama band built it, and it's a fucking castle.
Well, but I mean, it's
I'm
not
just fucking with you.
medieval, a real medieval.
A real medieval.
So I got there at 5. It started at 10. It was supposed to end at 8. We got there at 5 o'clock. And there was a girl there, actually. So she goes by Ghost Rider. She was speaking of, she's a ghost hunter. Okay, so I got there at the end of her little speech and presentation. And I'll get back to her in a minute. But she was kind of wrapping up when we got there. The next guy that came up, he was a Bigfoot hunter, okay? And this, I'm going to tell you, man, this was wild. So I went right up front. I had to sit up front for this
Oh,
because I
absolutely.
did not want to miss one thing.
You
So-
felt like the first day of sex ed class in junior
my-
high school. It was like, I got to get up front for
Oh,
this.
my God. Well, they had a bar on the side. I grabbed a beer, went up front and sat down, and I was just locking eyes with this guy. So he was about mid-30s. Had his hair, I guess it was a ponytail, but he had it up in a man bun. And he gets to talking, and you can tell he's not a
Public speaker.
well-versed in public speaking.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah.
So, but he's got a mic, and he's got a PowerPoint behind him. And so the very first thing is he goes, these sticks are inside of a bush. He goes, that's not how sticks fall, because they were going horizontal. He goes, that to me, that is evidence that Bigfoot did that. And I'm like, hang on a minute. And so I'm sitting there, and I'm like, Christ sakes, I hope he has something stronger than this now. Come on.
Two sticks. It's also some little kid walking around and playing fort.
Right. So, and now he's talking. He's got so many acres in North Alabama, and he says that he's seen all these things on his own property. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So then he goes to the PowerPoint, and he's showing some imprint of a foot, and you really can't hardly tell in the mud. And he goes, "That's a Bigfoot footprint," and all these different things. And then they keep showing limbs in the shape of an X, like in between two trees.
Mm-hmm.
And he said that that is a Bigfoot sign telling him that we accept you, we have befriended you, we will watch out for you, and we will guard you. And he said that they did that right after the birth of his son, as if to say, we're going to protect your son, and that my son has been accepted into their fold. And it was just, it was
fold.
yeah, it was wild. It was super wild. Now listen, I went in with a total open mind. Okay.
Right.
So I mean, you don't want to go in, whether you believe it or you don't. I didn't want to go in with a mocking attitude
A
or anything.
heckler's mindset.
No. I want to give me the information. I'll make a decision at the end. Okay.
Right.
So here's the way the guy ended, and it was unbelievable. So after talking for about an hour, and it's talk about all these sticks. Oh, before I get to that, I got to tell you. So there's one that the tree, it was like a 4-inch tree, and all the bark had been rubbed off. And he says that this particular tree, the bark is known to be medicinal. So whenever you see bark rubbed off, it's the Bigfoots healing themselves or healing a member of their clan, and they're eating the bark. And so I guess he expected us to believe that anytime that I guess a deer would rub his antlers.
I was going there, but I was
Yeah.
going to let you finish your.
Yeah,
thing.
we're supposed to believe that it was a Bigfoot taking an aspirin is essentially what it is. So, but and it may have been. So, but here's the way he ended. That was so incredible. So I guess they each had a certain amount of time, and he was going over his time. So the guy that was organizing the event, he goes, "Hey, whatever his name is," he goes, "I need you to wrap up." So the guy continues to ramble on for another 10 or 15 minutes after they done gave him the light.
Oh shit.
Yeah. So he goes, so now in conclusion, he goes, I know y'all were expecting to hear me say that I shook hands with a Bigfoot. He goes, I can't say that. I didn't do that. He goes, but I did play catch with a Bigfoot, and we threw a pine cone back and forth, and we played catch with each other.
That would be my opener.
No shit. That's exactly what I said. And then he goes, and then he has the audacity to go, but my time is up. And so I go, oh, hell
no.
After being up there for an hour, yeah, that I go, this son of a bitch.
That's my opener.
I turned to Creighton. I said, this dude, he is terrible. I said, I would have opened with, that's exactly what I said. I said, I would have opened with that shit.
It's like, y'all never believe this.
Yeah.
But
I played catch with a Bigfoot. I was like, how, and you're going to leave us hanging and just say that? And then say, well, but my time is up. Well, I'll have to talk about it another time. I thought, Jesus, dude.
I don't know if I couldn't have stood up and said, no, you're fucking talking about it now.
It was unreal. So, but the thing is, he kept saying whenever you would see something that he swore was a sign that it was a Bigfoot, he would go, can nature do that? Can nature do that? I don't think nature can do that. If anybody here thinks nature can make a stick do that, come on up. I want to just raise your hand. Just tell me who can nature do that? And I thought, man, I so bad. I want to raise my hand, but I'm there's 75 people in this room, and I'm not. I don't want to rock this boat right now.
Right,
you know?
right.
But that was his go-to line. Can nature do this? Can nature make sticks fall in an X? And he goes, nature could do that, but they didn't do that. And that it was wild. It was wild.
Oh, I wish I'd have went to that too.
So the very next speaker was a demonologist.
Okay.
So he did exorcisms and all this. This cat, he was the one to bring the show home. He was wild. He was super wild.
No shit. He was the closer for real, huh?
Yeah. So he had he was showing video clips of people that were, I guess he had a camera set up in a corner, and there's 3 or 4 people, and there's a guy hunched over, and he is speaking in tongues, he's cursing, he's freaking out, and everybody is like, on the edge of their seat, watching this guy possessed by a demon. And then he ends it, and he goes, is that a guy possessed? Who here thinks that's a man possessed? And I mean, I'm not interactive. I don't raise my hand. I'm not that guy. But I mean, the guy has me sold, and I'm like, this is a man possessed. And he goes, actually, that is not a man possessed. That is a guy on drugs. And I'm like, well, what did you show this shit for?
Yeah.
And he was going on about how drugs and their connection to the dark side, I guess.
Well,
and it was,
I'm not a overly, surprise, not an overly religious guy, and I usually try to stay away from religion and politics and stuff like that. But I will say this, on a logical standpoint, I think there is some connection between mental illness and what these guys do in exorcisms. I do believe that people lose their shit, and whether they're possessed by a devil or possessed by anything, or just having extreme mental problems. Mm-hmm. I mean, if you ever look at some of the traits, I guess you will, violently shaken, saying things, the mind is a powerful thing, first of all, and it can make you do some weird shit. It can make you extremely strong, extremely strong. When you dump that, testosterone dump, when people, you talk about guys lifting up a crazy amount of weight during a panic situation, when turning a vehicle off somebody when they're in panic mode, they can lift a fucking truck up,
Right.
do whatever. I think, and that's why, I get the hate mail for this, but when they say a kid's retard strong,
Right.
it's because the kid, it's usually a kid that's got some issues, and they don't realize how, strong they're grabbing you. Whereas when I grab you, if I give you a big hug, my body has that feeling of how,
Right.
I'm not going to
You don't want to crack that egg.
yeah, I'm not going to crack you, you know what I'm saying? And to whereas they don't have that filter or that e-stop, if you will, and they just go, and you're like, holy God, this kid's strong.
Yeah.
And it's not that he's any stronger than anybody else. It's their body doesn't know how to shut certain things down.
Yeah.
And so I do believe that there's relationships to that between drug abuse, mental disorders, and demonology, if you will, exorcisms, if you will. So that part, I would have been fascinated to watch that.
It was really interesting. So I will tell you. So I spent a lot of the time making a connection with Miranda, the ghost hunter, and listening to this guy. So I was kind of going back and forth. But what the guy said, he said one thing that it stuck with me. He said he's done hundreds of exorcisms, and one of the ones he said he did that the person was vomiting like a white froth, like you would see on the movie Exorcist. And he said, but then this one time, a lady vomits. He goes, it looked like coffee grounds, which was bizarre. I mean, you think about like a brown powder, vomiting that and cursing his name and God's name and all that. It was just, the whole thing was really wild. But here's my takeaway from the whole thing. So, not to say I believe, I don't believe, whatever it is, but I do believe, kind of going along with what you said, there are people that are they have themselves convinced that you can see what you want to see, And so if you see a stick in the form of an X, you can convince yourself that that's what you see.
Sure.
No matter what anybody else says.
I think, and not just with haunted house stuff. I think it just.
I think that's life in general. So let's take, not to go political, but the Democrats can see things within the Republicans, whether they be true or not true, but I believe they're truly convinced of it. And the Republicans the same way against the Democrats.
Absolutely. I mean, you convince yourself. I wanted to show you. I have I actually have a different.
Well, let me say this. So, one of the guys, we were milling around and we were talking with some of just the local yokels, around there. And we were talking, do you believe this? Do you believe this guy, that guy, whatever? And here is something that one of the guys said this to me that really went home to me. He said, you realize there are people in here that are diehard Bigfoot believers. He said, a lot of people don't believe in Bigfoot. He said, however, I'll say this. Think about how many people believe in Jesus or God. He says, do you realize there are more people walking the earth that claim to have seen Bigfoot than claim to have seen Jesus?
Wow.
And I thought, now that is some heavy shit. That is heavy.
So he's saying that there's more people, or recap what you said, more people on earth that believe they have seen Bigfoot than they have Jesus.
Yeah. I mean, how often do you run into somebody that says, I've seen Jesus? I mean, now they might say they feel him.
Right.
But to have actually seen him, people claim to have seen those. A lot of the people at that show last night claim to have seen the guy playing catch. A lot of people. But you don't meet a lot of, even pastors and all them. They don't claim to have seen Jesus.
Yeah.
But they believe in him. And he says, so whether you believe or not, Dave, just take that with you, that there are actually people who have seen Bigfoot. And think about how many people believe in Jesus.
That's true.
And nobody has seen Jesus.
Yeah, nobody's, well, except for in the toast when you saw his face.
That's right. Yeah.
I remember the big in the toast. Well, I will say this.
which is a pretty amazing comment.
I will say this, and I'm not going to say that I believe in Bigfoot, but I will say that there are guys that have found tracks and have video, your game footage cameras of mountain lions and stuff like that in Alabama, whereas for years people said there was no mountain lions in Alabama, indigenous. But apparently, there's, I think, down towards Sylacauga or somewhere, there's guys that's got, their game cameras, their hunting cameras, and they have snapped pictures of fucking mountain lions.
Yeah.
Walking around. If that don't scare you, a fucking mountain lion.
Oh yeah.
And now they got a bear in Leeds that end up getting killed or something like that. But black bears, there's nothing scary. Well, you hear about the hiker that choked out the mountain lion,
Yeah.
and they attacked him or whatever. But I'll tell you what, could you imagine walking the ridge out here in North Alabama, and all of a sudden you look over and a big ass cat sitting there? Nothing will make your heart stop quicker than that.
Well, so one of the stories that this guy told, and this, I just thought there's no way that this dude's balls are this big. After he said that he had already seen signs and all these things of a Bigfoot, he said he wanted to go into approach them in a way that would make them comfortable. So he waited until it was 10, 11, 12 o'clock at night, left his flashlights at home, wandered into the woods alone in the dark, and then sat down on a stump and just waited quietly for them to approach him. And he says, I could hear them running up on me and then stopping a foot away and then hear them breathing. He goes, I told them that I'm a friend of theirs. And he goes, and I talked to them calmly, and then they would run off. And now listen, I don't get spooked easily, but I just think walking into the woods in pitch ass black is freaky itself.
That could have been anything from a deer running up on you sniffing to a fucking coyote.
Right. Yeah. I'm not saying I believe, I don't believe. I'm just saying, to me, I'd be freaked out to walk however distance it is into the woods with no form of light at all, and to walk out there, and you're going to stay out there until sunrise.
Well, maybe I think too tactically, but if I was going to do that, I'd go buy some night vision.
Yeah, I don't know, but he was just throwing himself to the wolves, so to speak.
Yeah.
So
sounds like us we almost got a hold of.
yeah, but no, it could have been anything. But anyways, so with all that said, I made a really good connection with Miranda. So she's going to be coming in next week.
Okay.
She's a ghost hunter. She lives in Tennessee. She's going to be coming down here into the studio, and she's going to spend some time with us. And she has been in abandoned buildings, warehouses, prisons. She'll stay over there overnight, and she has all this equipment to do spiritual readings and all that stuff. And she told me, because I told her, I said, I want some good stories about experiences. I said, we're all open-minded. I'm not saying convince us, but give us a reason to believe.
Well, right. I do have a good ghost story that happened to me personally.
Okay, well, let me.
I'm not going to tell it today.
Oh, okay. Save that for her.
I'll save that for her and see what she thinks about it.
So she told me that she has photographic evidence as well as audio recordings that she is supposed to be bringing in. So I'm very much looking forward to seeing what she has. Because I told her, I said, I don't want to see it today, even though I was very curious. But I wanted my reaction to be
authentic.
Yeah, for next week when she comes in.
Sure.
So I really look forward to her coming in. So I think that's going to be a good show.
That should be a good show. I will say that I had an experience in Ocala, Florida, of all places.
Oh, my hometown.
Your hometown. Years ago, and an easy 20 years ago. And it's been so long ago, I really need to find the house. And but it happened in a house, and I'll try to find it, and it made for a good ghost story.
So you believe it was a ghost?
Well, when you hear the story, you'll be like, it'll make you think. Okay, it'll truly make you think. And I didn't know that the house was supposedly, the house is supposedly on a haunted registry. So much so that the guy didn't put numbers on the front of the house that we were going to rent it from, a bunch of us young guys. And we rented the house, and we didn't end up staying there long, not because of any weird shit going on, but just because the guys I went down there with, one guy was from there, two other guys were not, and we were just young, dumb kids, and they just flaked out as far as, what we were planning on doing. And so we didn't stay there very long. But I had a very interesting experience with just me in the house. And well, actually, at one point, it was three of us in the house. Some weird shit happened. We didn't think nothing about it. And then they had left to go do something, come back to Birmingham and whatnot. And some weird shit happened with just me by myself there. So it's a really interesting story. I'd really save it for her.
Well, I'll tell you what. If you're going to share one, I have one that I don't know that I've told anybody ever.
Okay.
So we'll each have one. We'll let her analyze it, and I tell you, I would like for her to rate our ghost stories on a scale of 1 to 10. Yeah. And see what she thinks.
Absolutely. And I'll do some I'll try to find the house thing, and that way she can verify that it was on a haunted registry and all that good stuff, because that's just what I was told.
Yeah.
After the fact.
Well, she told me a story, and I touched on it a little bit with you earlier off mic, about her staying inside of an abandoned prison where men were known to have been killed and died in there. And she slept there, by herself. And a lot of really, really cool stuff.
That's ballsy in its own right.
Man, this is what I'm telling you. Yeah.
Not because she's a woman, but because she is a woman, and you never know what some homeless person, some homeless crazy nut, or might decide that that's where they want to. That's an easy place to hide out because nobody will come there.
Yeah.
You never know what kind of idiot you're going to run into, and so that's pretty ballsy.
But I asked her about Sloss Furnace, because everybody talks about that being haunted and all that.
Yeah.
And she told me, she says she was very disappointed that she did not get the readings and pick up the vibe that she was anticipating. She just said that it's just not what you think it is.
Right. I think a lot of that is the lure of selling. Sloss is a cool spot.
And visually, it looks a little creepy.
Yeah, and visually it looks creepy, and it's an easy sell.
Yeah.
It's an easy sell. And I'm sure people died there. I mean, it's a steel mill. There's people that's died out of U.S. Steel. It's just the nature of the industry. And so, but I wouldn't think that it was a super haunted place. But, hell, who knows, man? She might come in here and say, this fucking place is haunted. I'd be like, God damn it. We got to move.
Yeah, right. Well, but anyways, so give us something to look forward to.
Oh, man, look forward to. So next week we'll have in the Ghost Rider.
Yep. And
very attractive lady, actually.
Yeah.
Pretty girl. I've never met her. I look forward to meeting her. What's her name again?
Miranda. You can actually find her on Instagram at runaway_vixen if anybody wants to go ahead and send her a friend request. Her site is set private. So, but you send her a friend request, I'm sure that she'll accept you.
It looks like she's got Ghost Biker Exploration on Facebook, Ghost Biker Exploration on YouTube, Runaway Vixen on Instagram, and Ghost Biker Explorations on Twitter. So we'll look forward to that. Another guy that we got coming on, really off the subject of what we were talking about tonight.